Hi, my name is Gary Ross. I'm the writer, director of the new movie, The Free State of Jones.
It ain't just for us. Black, white, rich, poor. It's for everybody.
And I'm here to talk about 4 myths about the Civil War era. Myth number 1, the Civil War was not about slavery. Yes, this is a myth. The Civil War was absolutely about slavery. In fact, the crisis that led to secession on the part of the southern states was created when an anti-slavery candidate, Abraham Lincoln, was elected president of the United States. The fact that Lincoln fought to, in his own words, preserve the Union should not be confused with the root causes of the war. The root causes of the war were the election of a president from an anti-slavery party, and by their own definition, every single southern state in their Articles of Secession proclaims that the reason for their secession is to preserve the institution of slavery. Myth number 2, that the South was monolithic. Okay, well, this is really what our movie is about. There's a consolidation of lost cause mythology that says that the entire Confederacy was completely unanimous and there was virtually no dissent or anti-slavery feeling within the Confederacy. This just isn't true. We see areas of Southern Unionism all through the South. Jones County, Mississippi, where our movie is set, was a pretty famous one. But the state of West Virginia broke off from the state of Virginia because they were not in agreement with the goals of the Confederacy. There's a number of pockets of unionism that ran all through the South, and it's something that was far from unanimous. It's just been kind of ignored in the retelling of history. Myth number 3 is that emancipation meant immediate freedom for the slaves who were, quote, freed. It did not. No sooner was emancipation granted by the 13th Amendment than Andrew Johnson immediately began repatriating Confederates, giving them their land and their power back through blanket amnesties that were signed that entire summer. They instituted a series of laws that came to be known as the Black Codes, which were draconian and pretty terrible. For example, minor children could be apprenticed, which was just a euphemism for another form of slavery. Vagrancy laws were put into effect where the freedmen could not venture off the plantation or they would be arrested for vagrancy and then sentenced to work on a plantation. No African Americans could ply a trade without a license, which were very, very rarely granted. African Americans were not allowed to testify at trial or serve on juries. Their freedom was immediately restricted in what many people consider feudalism, if not slavery. Myth number 4, that Reconstruction was somehow a failure or a noble failure. Reconstruction didn't fail, it was killed. Reconstruction ended for a lot of reasons, but probably the most prominent one was a counter-revolution on the part of white supremacist groups, a reign of terror, acts of terrorism that struck back at the freedmen and tried to restrict their ability to participate in their own government, to exercise their franchise. And that reign of terror eventually led to the advent of the Jim Crow era. To say that Reconstruction perished somehow under its own weight is a myth. It's a part of our history that's sadly ignored.